Do you agree with what Klopp's saying there, that it shouldn't be the players who have to apologise for this?
So I believe that they shouldn't have to, but I believe that should they want to, they should be supported in doing so. But then at that point, I think it becomes a bit more tricky because a unified message is far greater than one of just one or two people. I think the point that he made about the fact the decision being made for it being here was one which didn't involve most of the key stakeholders within the game that we all know and love. I think that's the key bit. And for some, like the World Cup, for example, is arguably the pinnacle of football. And people will be desperate to even be a part of it, to go and watch it, to represent your national side, to get the chance to go and try and play, to lift up the trophy like so many have done before. That's truly iconic. And there's the nature of where it's going to be for them. You know, it's a mark because this one will feel different to a lot of the others that have come before it. And they understand that things are a long way from perfect. But then the other side of that coin is they're desperate to play for their countries. They're desperate to get the chance to go and play at a World Cup, desperate for a chance to try and win it. And for so many, you know, for us, we're watching this tournament. This might be the last time you see Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lewandowski, people like that, Luka Modric playing at the World Cup. And for them, you know, that's what they wanted the focus to be. But then ultimately, that's not what it is. And I feel it's wrong for those people to be criticised for going to take part in something which they dreamt of for most of their lives, especially when they know themselves that the situations is a long way away from perfect. So for them to be criticised, I think it's missing the point. They didn't choose, as Jurgen Klopp said, to go and play the tournament in this country, but they take huge pride in wanting to just be a part of the tournament itself. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on this tournament, a lot of questions asked about why it was here in the first place, a lot of questions asked about why it's going to be run the way that it's run. And I think there's going to be a level of accountability which will be levelled at FIFA, and they'll have to answer these questions because the stakeholders of world football, you know, whether it's the fans, it's the players, sponsors, so on and so forth, they really want to know why this is happening now and why it's happening here. And even if Qatar put on a good show, the fact is it'll be different to the ones that came before, and that ultimately isn't what people want. So I think this is a very significant World Cup for many, many different reasons. But I think to point the finger at the players and say, you're not doing enough, I think that misses the point. They understand what's going on. And I'm sure many of them wish that they had a say in terms of where it was going to be. And I think if they did, you probably wouldn't be in a place whereby people feel that, you know, you can't be yourself and things haven't been done in the proper way. But unfortunately, this is where we're at in society, I guess.
Shaka?
I totally agree. And I totally agree with everything Jurgen Klopp said. I think it's unfair to expect the players to be the ones to lead this charge. And listen, I totally understand the power of football in addressing so many of societal issues. I think where we've gotten it wrong is that onus has been put on the players when the onus should be on the administration. We are asking players to do the jobs that football administrators have neglected. And not only are we asking them to, but players have become the first port of call. Players shouldn't have to be walking off the pitch to protest racial abuse within stadiums. That's the job of administration. Players shouldn't be having to take these types of actions when the administrators put them in that position. We don't always, we sometimes take that responsibility on our shoulders and fight that fight quite squarely, but that's not our primary responsibility. And again, to Jurgen Klopp's point is, I think as fans, as the game's lovers, we have shifted our attention from asking the administrators to do that to expecting the players to do it.
That time of the week.
After a week off, the power rankings are back. And once again, Kay, there can be no arguing.
Well, but there can.
Well, we don't.
Where is it? By the top, Man wins, join 10. Benfica, second, understand. PSG.
Hold on a second. Did you just say Benfica? You're about to deliver a soliloquy, and then you say they're second.
Benfica undefeated this season, top their group, including PSG. There can be no arguing there. Napoli, okay, they lose to Liverpool, but they top their group. Other than that, simply fantastic in Serie A. Manchester City in at fifth. Was it 3 wins in their last 6? You understand why they're that low. Real Madrid, a loss and a draw in their last 3. Arsenal, a draw and a loss in their last 4. Union Berlin, top in Germany still, but they
Say that
lost.
again. Say that again.
Union Berlin, top in Germany still, but they lost a couple of weeks ago and so have fallen somewhat. I know what you're going to say because by the top, by the 9 wins in a row, Union Berlin lost 2 games ago. Right. Fenerbahce top in Turkey, and I can't remember who's 10th.
Okay, good job. Newcastle.
There can be
That's right.
Yeah.
There can be no arguing. It made Naden pull the strangest face.
No, that's just Liam's face. That's just...
No, I love coming on the show, especially for the power rankings, because I'm learning from the best. If I ever want engagement online, just forward on Shaka's power rankings. They make no sense. It gets everybody upset, but it creates the conversation. So well done, Shaka. You did it again. Very well done.
I don't think that was a compliment.
It felt kind of weird, actually.
No. Shaka, I don't know if you know, but that was not a compliment.
I was trying to break it down
That was a little
myself.
bit of Ibra when a child gets too
That's right.
power.
Yeah.
Oh,
Repeat, Union Berlin, where are they in the Bundesliga?
they're top.
And who's second?
Bad.
Now, Lionel Messi, and whether he will be returning to Barcelona. Well, here is what La Liga president Javier Tebas had to say. He said, I think that Messi is not only missed in La Liga, but he is also missed in football because the French league is what it is, right?
Oh,
And what might that be, Jules?
I don't know what Javier Tebas means by that. I mean, I don't really care, to be fair. He keeps slagging off French football. I know he's still very angry and frustrated that Messi left La Liga and Barcelona to go to PSG. Nobody in France forced him to do that, by the way. That was his own decision. I think Javier Tebas should watch a bit of Liga. I think, I think that would be good for him to... we could educate him about the good players that we have, the really good academies, the really good youngsters that we have. He could watch Kylian Mbappe and maybe dreaming that one day Mbappe would play in his league. I'm sure he would take a lot of Liga players, by the way, in La Liga next season. So, come on. I'm not even sure it would be that good for La Liga to have Messi back and for Barcelona. We've mentioned a lot of it before. That I'm not sure going back is the right thing at this stage of Messi's career, by the way.
Ale, Tebas on Messi?
Unnecessary. And in terms of what Barcelona is trying to do now is they're moving ahead. They're moving forward. It may not be going in the direction that they would have wanted or that they would have hoped for at the beginning of the season, given the failures of Champions League. But they are banking on this youth movement. They are banking on Pedri and Gavi and Araujo and so on and so forth. And then a little sprinkle of Lewandowski here, a little sprinkle of De Jong there, and we move on. The era of Lionel Messi, as successful as it was, as magical as it was, is now over. There was a clean break, and now Xavi and Barcelona are moving on. They're moving on so much so that Gerard Pique will no longer be part of this picture anymore. They are moving on. They're moving on from Sergio Busquets. They're moving on from Jordi Alba. They're moving on from Lionel Messi. They are moving ahead. They're going forward with what their plan is. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? We'll see. But at the very least, they have a plan in place, which is rare for Barcelona. What we have seen for Barcelona in the past is that there wasn't a lot of a plan. Now there seems to be a plan in place. The execution of that plan is what we need to evaluate from here on out. As for Javier Tebas, why talk about other leagues?
In Group E of the Europa League, this is how things finished up. Real Sociedad and Manchester United playing out a game today. The hosts needed only to avoid defeat by more than 1 goal. So United need to win by 2 or more goals. In the end, it was 1-0 after Alejandro Garnacho scored the only goal of the game in the 17th minute. David De Gea also made a brilliant double save. But speaking of the goal scorer, this was Bruno Fernandes talking about him. He said he knows we expect a lot from him. He's still really young. At the beginning of the season, he wasn't at his best. In the pre-season tour, he didn't have the best attitude that he should have, and that's why he didn't get his chances until now. He's getting his chances because he's training better, he's having a different attitude, and he's deserving his chances. Naden, what do you think about what Bruno Fernandes has said there? We do have to remember Garnacho is only 18 years old.
I'm curious. Was it Was it Ten Hag that said that? Or was it Fernandes? Because all those words sound like a manager in terms of making decisions about picking players. I didn't know that players could be so open in that manner about who gets selected and who doesn't and the reasons why. I think he seems like he's trying to deliver a message to the player there. But at the end of the day, is that his job to do that? Like, I get that you're a captain, but keep certain things in-house. It's an interesting one. You know, certain people would have been happy to see him score his goal today. And it's like, oh, it's great. He's exciting. He's 18. Everything's fantastic. Everything's looking up. But it's an interesting one. It's a sort of like, you know, you did well, but stay grounded. Stay grounded. And, you know, this is why you'll get in. This is why you won't get in. But yeah, it's a weird one for me. I don't get that. I don't understand the context of the question that would have been asked to him for him to deliver that answer. And sometimes for young players, it pays to pat them on the back. It's not all the time trying to pin them down, but maybe he's right. They must know something that we don't and knows that maybe he hasn't been at his best. But I think to say that's why he didn't get selected, you know, what's the reason Ronaldo's not getting selected? I guess that's what we'll be asking him next week.
Do you mind what Bruno Fernandes has said there, Shaka?
You know, at the time, I didn't. And to Neil's point, I think Bruno Fernandes is just trying to deliver a message to Garnacho that he'd probably been getting from Bruno Fernandes and the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo all along. Garnacho played really well against Sociedad, took his goal fantastically well. And I just see this as a senior player just saying to the younger player, keep your feet on the ground, work hard, all the old cliches, and everything will be okay.
Are they not in the same locker room, though?
Yes.
Okay. So couldn't he just walk over and say that to him?
And my point is, I think he does. I think they do. And he just kind of blurted it out. And it didn't feel wrong to me at the time.
Just to let you know, Jules has joined the party.
Okay.
We've got Julien Laurent with us, and we are very happy to have him. Your point, Ale, with what Shaka was just saying.
Well, all I'm suggesting is that even if you're the captain and even if you're asked the question, there are ways in which you answer the question. You say, hey, he was excellent today. He has been better in training. He has earned his opportunities. You move on with your life.
Well, let's look back a little on what happened in the Champions League and how things finished up there. We wanted to bring up Group H, where PSG had to settle for a second place finish behind Benfica on away goal scored after Benfica beat Maccabi Haifa 6-1 to snatch top spot. Anyone in Paris, Jules, wondering how Benfica were able to score 5 second-half goals? Have there been any conspiracy theories at all?
Well, yeah, Jérôme Roten, the former PSG player, on his radio show last night was saying like that people apparently saw the Maccabi Haifa goalkeeper leaving on his brand new Lamborghini after the game. Those kind of jokes, basically. Not so much conspiracy. I don't think PSG lost that top spot in the games last night. They lost it, especially at the Parc des Princes against Benfica in a game they should have won and not drew. But apart from that, we have to say that Benfica deserve a lot of credit. They're a really good team. Roger Schmidt is doing a really, really good job. They're unbeaten in 22 games in all competitions. And those goals that they scored at the end, Joao Mario especially, right at the end, made a big difference. Let's see who they get in the draw and who PSG get. But certainly, it's usually a big advantage to finish top of your group.
Well, let's take a little look at that, shall we then? Because it's made things a bit more interesting for PSG, especially going into the draw now. Just taking a look at the best possible draw for PSG according to Jules. So we asked you for your most desirable and least desirable, Jules. Talk us through this.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously I went for the team down paper. Maybe are not the strongest. Porto are really hard to play against. Sergio Conceição doing a really good job there. Spurs, very underwhelming this season so far under Antonio Conte, despite obviously doing well in the Champions League and in the league still. And after that, Chelsea still trying to work out and do a lot of finding out with Graham Potter. And then a bit after that, it's Napoli, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid and City. And I would not want PSG to play neither of those four. I guess I put Napoli there because they don't have the same experience of the other three. But then the other three are all on the same level. They are the three biggest favorite in this competition. So if PSG were to play against either Bayern, City or Real Madrid, I think that would be a hell of a task, really. So I'm really hoping for one of the top two.
Gerard Pique has announced that he is retiring and that Saturday's game against Almeria will be his last at the Camp Nou. He really has won it all with Barca in the 15 seasons he's played for them, and of course with Spain as well, winning the World Cup and the European Cup twice as well. The Sorry, I'm getting lost in my thoughts here. I know we are. Anyway, Barcelona, as we know, 3 Champions League, 2 trebles in that time, and also so many things to look back on when it comes to his career. But the times that you look at now with him, it does maybe start a conversation that goes a little bit of a different way as we welcome in Sid Lowe and Nader Manua. And Sid, I want to start with you to ask you, why now? Why now with Gerard Pique?
I think the answer to that really is a combination of factors, and I think the 2 fundamental factors are footballing and economic. The awareness of the institutional problems that Barcelona have, the awareness that his salary is a problem to them, his commitment to Barcelona, as he made very clear in that video. And of course, you know, it's perhaps easy to do at this point, but I think it's absolutely true what he says in terms of a lifetime as a Barcelona fan, a Barcelona member from the day that he was born, because his family are all Barcelona fans, and he's been aware, I think, of the impact of his enormous salary, and his salary has been enormous on the club, and therefore a desire to kind of deal with that as soon as possible. But then there's the footballing side of it, and that's becoming increasingly aware that he doesn't have a place in this team, that even when players are injured, he's not a guy that's going to get a place in the side. At the start of the summer, Xavi Hernandez had, of course, started to look at alternatives at central defence. Koundé came in, Christensen came in, there'd been other players, even Marcos Alonso playing at central defence when it's not really his role. And Pique had said in the summer, look, whatever you think, whoever you bring in, I will fight for my place and I will prove that I'm good enough to play. And I think what's happened, of course, over the last 4 or 5 months is that he's seen that even if he believes he is, Xavi doesn't. Then, of course, in that game that he had against Inter Milan, he was really quite disastrous, to be honest. And I think it's him realising that actually it's better to go out at the top than to be forced out at a time when you've hung on for too long.
Now, there's a suggestion coming and reports stating, Sid, that he's actually going to be forfeiting the rest of his contract. And obviously, it's unconfirmed right now. We've seen Joan Laporta come out and say that the exit agreement is actually being finalised, but they have recognised that there's a great attitude from the player to help. Are you hearing anything similar to that in Spain? What's the reaction been there?
Well, of course, it's not the first time. And last season, remember when Memphis Depay joined the club and you know, that kind of first wave of new players coming in, it was Gerard Pique who took a pay cut. And actually, as it turned out, that was slightly misreported in the sense that it was more a pay deferral than a pay cut to enable Barcelona to register those players. There's been a willingness from him all the way along, although it is also true that willingness hasn't necessarily reached the point of saying, like, that's it, don't worry, don't pay me anything at all. And I think that's what Laporta was trying to make the point about this evening, to say, this isn't about a player saying, right, I don't want any of the money that's due to me. It is about reaching an agreement for what the Spanish always refer to as a finiquito, essentially the kind of the severance pay, but that there is an awareness and a willingness from Pique to say, we deal with this in a way that helps the club out. And the club, in truth, have been desperate to get rid of the 3 captains for economic reasons, Busquets, Jordi Alba and Gerard Pique. Perhaps Busquets a little bit less than the other 2. And this is, from a financial point of view, very good news for them. Although, of course, it's very sad that it ends this way, and it does feel a little strange, doesn't it, for it to happen halfway through the season. But I think, as I say, that's a response to a growing realisation that his role within the team was extremely limited.
Were you surprised to see the timing of it, Ale?
Yes, certainly, because if there was ever a time in which Barcelona could potentially use Gerard Pique, it's right now, given the injuries. But to Sid's point, and I think this is something that guys who are on the verge of retiring start to realize, is that there are players out there that the coach chooses to put in the field ahead of you that you know full well are not better than you. And at that point, it's so very difficult to continue to go on, to continue to motivate yourself. Because I must imagine that Gerard Pique, even at the bench, he's sitting down and saying, Marcos Alonso playing center back instead of me? Huh? That guy instead of me? Christensen playing instead of me? There's so much history of success from Gerard Pique at Barcelona and with the national team that is so very difficult to then see a guy who we know in his time in Chelsea could not really defend all that well, comes to Barcelona, and Xavi says, I'd rather put you over here rather than Gerard Pique. That is a very clear message from Xavi that not only are you not part of the plans now, the future, or anytime soon, you're simply not part of the plans. You have been erased. And when you have been erased as a player, again, with that history of success, you have no choice but to say, I'm either a cheerleader the rest of the year or I walk away. And having the role of a cheerleader is not for everybody. having that presence in the locker room is not for everybody. And if in the end you're not motivated enough to say, I'm going to continue to fight because you don't see that there's going to be an opportunity for you, even if you fight, then it starts to make sense as to why Gerard Pique will walk away right now.
It happened fast, Nadem.
Yeah, it certainly did. But in some ways, I kind of understand it. When you look at, say, all the honours which he had, which you highlighted at the start, it's so much that it's quite hard to even read off. So I think to then find himself in a position where he knows he's not going to be playing at all, regardless of whatever he does, I think as a player in your 30s, that's a really tough moment of reckoning. Because throughout your career, you probably believe that it's a fair fight. You're being selected, you're the best, and so on and so forth. But when it makes no difference what you do in terms of your selection, you are faced with the question, well, what do I do next? I think for him, the success that he's had, the money that he's made, he can walk away from the game. Not everybody would be in the same position. Some might say they need to go elsewhere, needs to try and find some football somewhere. But he's achieved it all. He's literally won everything. And he's done it at the club which is so dear in his heart. And so for him, this is the way that he's going to be going out. And, I think Sid mentioned the point about leaving at the top. Even though, he's essentially done better for Barcelona in times gone by, if his leaving helps the club go forward, then he's still a hero and he knows that he's done his bit as well. It's a tough spot to be in because he's still a very good player, even if he's not playing week in, week out and showing it. But the fact is, at some point, when you have clubs who are trying to build for the future, you in your 30s doesn't really bode well for you wanting to be a part of that. It's a tough call for him, but he's had an incredible career. And also, I know some people who were playing with him when he was playing in the reserves at Manchester United all that time ago, and they didn't believe that it'd be as successful as he is today. So he's had a fantastic career, had it at two of the best clubs in the world, and with which one of them was, a club so dear to his heart. So it's a shame to see him leave, but he certainly left a lot of good memories, and I guess the future's going to be bright for him.
Looking at all of the teams in the bottom three as of now, of those teams have really good players, and at least nobody would have named two of the three clubs there at the start of the season. What has gone wrong for them? We do have an FC Extra Time here.
Well, I have to ask a question. To those that are in charge of picking the questions, if there's no clarity as to what league they're talking about, how does this question make the cut?
Okay, so I'm going to assume it's the Premier League, which brings us Leicester, Wolves and Nottingham Forest. Is it fair, Nadem, to say that Leicester City would have not expected to see themselves in the bottom three at this stage of the season?
I believe that, to be fair. I think some people thought that they maybe fall off a little bit this year because they haven't been able to bring in some of the players that they would have wanted in that first transfer window. But yeah, it was strange to see them down there, but they were just conceding so many goals. As for Wolves, I think Wolves are a good side, but for the years that they've been in the Premier League, they never really feel like they score enough goals, and it seems like this year they're being quite severely punished for that, so that's why they're down there. And then for Nottingham Forest, if you sign 22 players, somehow it might not mix straight away, so who would have thought? But it's at the end of the day, it's the Premier League, it's any league, it's a professional league, it's a top division in Europe, around the world. It's very, very competitive, and if you're not at your best, you can be punished. And then at the moment you start getting punished, if you don't have the momentum, don't have the belief, you can spend a bit more time down there than you would like. But as we've seen in recent weeks, there's a mini resurgence that can start to come with, say, some of the results for Forest, some of the ones for Leicester, and then I think Wolves will be thinking that their time's coming soon as well.
The Premier League bias in this show is something else. Huh? How come we're not talking about Elche? Elche.
Did you hear what I said? You heard what I said? I said top leagues around the world, Ale. I knew you were there, so I paid my respects. I didn't just say the Premier League.
It was K.
Yeah, no, it's K who assumed that it was Premier League. It's nothing with you, Nadem. It's K who then decided it was a Premier League situation.
It was K.
Perhaps. Kartik often contributes to a digital show on the Premier League that Janusz and I do.
Oh, here we go. So it's a plug. It's a plug for you. Your show. It's a plug for your show.
It lives on ESPN FC. Please go and check it out every Monday. But then there is the hashtag FC Extra Time, so now I'm confused. But let me know, Kartik, if my assumption was right. Not about the show, about it being the Premier League. For Ale, how many watches do you own? Do you have a matching pair of sneakers and pocket square for each? And what is your number one tip for accessorizing?
Ali has watches sponsored. Ali's got a watch sponsor.
Used to, Shaq. That sponsorship has since ended. I have quite a few watches, and yes, I do try to mix and match a little bit. Make sure that they pop every once in a while. the tie as well, and when I do have a pocket square, yes, I try to make sure that it all comes together. Even the shoes, I try every once in a while to make sure that everything is a full package.
Coordination.
They can fashion forward.
Look, listen.
Well, Luis Garcia liked it.
Hey, that's right.
well,
Standard is high.
yeah,
Now,
okay.
let me just tell you, Shaq, here's the problem that I have. You see the hair situation is not going to get any better, right? The face, it's all that I've got to work with. So then I have to redirect the attention elsewhere.
So you wear a watch?
I wear a watch and a pocket square that usually matches the tie.
All right.
Yeah?
What we're saying is homeboy feeling himself.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Homeboy feeling
That's
himself.
right. That's right. Hey,
This man's got a watch sponsor.
thank you, resting burly face.
Yeah, well.
Nedum, who will be the best right back for England in the World Cup?
The best. I don't even know if England are going to play with the right back. For all we know, they might have wing backs. But in terms of people available right now, do you know the right back that's probably had the best season to date? It's probably Kieran Trippier. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's in there playing in that position. And also, he was a part of that England team that made it to the semi-finals, I think, of the World Cup and to the final of the Euro. So I think he's the guy that's in a dominant position right now. He's playing very, very good football, going about his business, and you can see his value to the side. So I guess it's going to be him.
Playing very good football right
That's
now, Shaka.
Newcastle's Kieran Trippier.
Yes.
Newcastle in Paul.
Yeah, number 10.
10.
You forgot that they were number 10.
Well, you had me flustered.
Well,
And then Nedum was pulling her face
Don't
and
start
everything.
blaming other people.
no.
No, it's Ali and Nedum's
Own your
fault.
mistake.
It's Adam's and Adam.
Who's Adam? Who's Adam?
Ali and
Where is
Nedum.
Adam?
That's you and Nedum. Adam, Aldum, or something. You know, they squash your names
Adam?
together. That's you
Adam?
two.
Yeah, Adam.
Yeah, Adam.
Shaka, have you ever made a save with your head or your face?
Yeah. I remember playing. Well, I mean, it happens a lot, but I remember playing Newcastle against Sunderland at St James's Park. And why this one stood out is I did not see the ball coming. So there's the ball's bouncing everywhere in the box, and there's a ton of bodies, and it's just kind of everywhere. And all of a sudden, I get smashed straight on in the face. Do not see it coming. Honestly, it all but knocked me out. It was one of them. I mean, but to the question, it happens, comes off the face all the time. But that one stood out. That one felt like a right hook.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis, and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.